Just two adjacent girls living in a lovely world. They took a podcast train going anywhere, but kind of specifically through Austin, Texas. Yeah, hook 'em horns.
Adjacent. Very near, next to, or touching. Our tailgate is adjacent to the left field fence. ADJACENT. Adjacent.
Welcome back, y'all. Welcome to Adjacent. We have an incredible author in the house with us. You're going to have to help me with your last name, though, Jessica. How do you pronounce your last name?
Okay, so I actually wrote it up there.
Oh,
yeah, because you are not the first person to ask me this. It's Guerrieri.
Guerrieri. Okay. I was trying to say it over and over again. I was like, I think it's okay.
It's my married name. It means the warrior in Italian, which I think is pretty badass. So
that is an awesome last name.
Yeah.
Well, after you're reading your book, that tracks.
Oh, thank you. Thank you.
You are author of Between the Devil and the Deep Blue Sea. And I have to tell you, it spoke to me. You're such an incredibly gifted writer.
Thank you.
How long have you been writing?
My whole life. I started actually writing in like childhood journals, and it's been kind of crazy because I kept them forever, and I started when I was 5, and I continued on into my 20s, and I only stopped in my early 20s because my drinking got so bad that I actually wasn't able to continue to write, because I would literally write and then like pass out and it would fall off the page.
Wow.
And so that was one of the things that kind of told me that there might be an issue, because writing was always something that I loved so much. I went to UC Davis and I got my undergraduate degree in creative writing. And then I won the Maurice Prize for Fiction through UC Davis for my debut, Between the Devil and the Deep Blue Sea. And that is sort of like what kicked off the journey of like publication and all of that. So, yeah.
Wow, that's incredible. Journaling is so powerful.
It is. And I actually gave my daughters, so I have 3 daughters. I have a 12-year-old, a 10-year-old, and a 7-year-old, all girls. And I actually started giving them my journals that accompany the time that overlaps with them, which has been so powerful, because it's normalizing some of their like struggles that they're having, because they're so similar to struggles that I was having, and pretty much every 12-year-old girls had, basically. But it normalizes that like feeling of feeling other, feeling different. And so for my daughters, like specifically my 12-year-old, to read it in her mom's own words is it's been
gosh.
There's a lot of feelings in my house. We have so many feelings.
Well, and may I ask, what started your path of journaling?
Yeah, I mean, really, it was like somebody, thought to gift me a journal, and I just was encouraged to write from a young age. I come from a family of English majors. Everybody has, both my parents have their masters in English lit. And so we would like talk about Shakespeare and stuff like at the kitchen table. And also I come from a household of librarians. And so books were always like, my mom read to my sister and I every night into like junior high. Like we would read chapter books, and we would like cry and read The Red Fern Grows and just be like weeping over all the animals. If a human dies, it's like, that's okay. If an animal dies, like, I'm not okay. So and then I tried to instill that in my own family too, hit and miss, where like my big girls are like graphic novel through and through, and can't get away from that, but it's still reading, and that's great. So yeah, just a love of literature and books, like feeling, going to like Borders as a kid was like my like high. I would be like, oh my God, there's like a place where it just smells good and they have coffee and I can read. And I'm like, he goes back.
I know. Oh, yeah, those were like my favorite dates.
Right. Well, and so that's actually why in my second book, Both Can Be True, she owns a bookstore that's also a cafe. That is my like love letter to Borders. Of being like, how do I live out that fantasy of being a bookstore owner? Because who doesn't? I mean, like, who doesn't want to like run away into like the hills of California and be a bookstore owner?
Absolutely. Absolutely. What movie was that? With Meg Ryan, where she
Oh yeah. It's like the later one of
yes, and
Seattle. Yeah, she
sleep. Yes, and I just remember like looking at her bookstore was so cute, and I was like, that's what I want to do. Of course, I never realized that dream, but
so charming. That no, but we can fantasize.
we can fantasize.
We can get the mobile
Right.
and ride through the Hamptons. Sure.
Yes.
So,
And that women would just like hop on and be like, and then everybody would become friends with each other, because like book people are truly, besides people in recovery, I found book people are the best people.
Yeah.
And that they're just genuine and care about things, care about people, as do people in recovery. And so I'm like, the fact that I get to like exist in both worlds at all times, I've like created quite the little life for myself, I have to say.
I love it. I have to tell you, your story, the main character, the protagonist, is obviously a mother, and her name is Leah, and she has a drinking issue that she's working through. How did you come about this storyline? I think it's so powerful, and especially today, I'm hearing so many people moving towards sobriety and living a sober life. Tell me about your journey.
Yeah.
And how did you choose this storyline?
So I have in May, according to plan, I should have 13 years of continuous sobriety.
Wow. Congratulations.
Yeah. So I got sober at 29 and I'm 41 now. And so when I walked into, I got sober through Alcoholics Anonymous. And because I had a family history of alcoholism, and my mom is born and raised in Ireland, so it's like in our DNA, right? And I have two family members, one of which died from the disease, and then one that has long-term recovery. And she was always very vocal about AA, and so I actually like knew where to go and what to do once I sort of hit that rock bottom point, which actually led me to wanting to write this book. And the reason I wanted to specifically write where the book takes place in Leah's journey is because that was the most terrifying part for myself, was I want to stop drinking. I want to be present for my family, but I can't. And that powerlessness is something that I was able to put into words, and I knew that from journaling and being able to share the like sort of lived experience in recovery. And I was like, I wonder if I could put this into a book, because there are so many depictions of women, specifically mothers, on Hulu and Netflix, and they're doing the mommy wine culture, book clubs where they're all drinking and having fun, and it's this like haha lighthearted experience. And I was like, that wasn't my experience, but surely I'm not the only one in that. And so I wanted to write a book that shows that, and ultimately it was a reflection of my own story, but one of profound hope, because here I am.
That's amazing. I love this story. I think so many people are struggling with this, for sure. And I think you're right. There is this like levity given to it. I work at like just a little boutique in Austin, just really small. And the owner buys like all these little napkins, and it's like wine time, everything's like
wine o'clock.
Wine o'clock.
Yay. There's like back to school, even at like Trader Joe's, it said like back to school aisle and it's pointing at the wine aisle, like mom's back to school aisle. And it's like, is this is the messaging we're saying? And if we look harder at it, it's deeply rooted in misogyny, because it's saying women need alcohol in order to cope with the stressors of motherhood. There is no daddy wine time. There is no daddy. It's like, way to be a hero and be a dad, you know?
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
Where do I sign up for that role? You know? And it's just like, what? So I really wanted to do, and how we pitched it to our publisher was like a peek behind the curtain into the realities of what happens when you follow my mommy wine culture down to its inevitable conclusion. Because it's not what you see on TV. It's not what you're reading in like romance books, where it's like, you know, she's going on a date and she just like drinks too much and he takes care of her and they fall in love. Like, what?
Yeah.
There's so much of that. And I was just like, you know, I think we can be really honest. And then what better place to do it than book club fiction?
Yes.
Where book clubs become glorified wine clubs. And maybe I can speak to someone who's scared to look at themselves.
Sure.
But in your book also, you know, there were people in her life that just ignored everything that was going on.
Yeah.
And, you know, her sister-in-law was the first one to go, hey, because she had the experience growing up with it, and was like, hey, there's a problem here.
Right.
But the husband just was so checked out and just, you know.
Well, he was so busy building his restaurant.
Yeah.
Right. Which, you know, I also feel like that is profoundly relatable to a lot of women's experiences, not because, you know, it was funny. Somebody called me like a feminist writer, which I was like, oh, thank you. I can't think of a greater compliment than that. But I want to be very strategic, especially because I'm raising 3 daughters and I have the most supportive husband in the world.
Yes.
It's, you know, I'm not sitting here as a man hater, right?
No, not at all.
I love men, but I do think there's this level of, from the partner's perspective, of fear and confusion and shutting down. And I wanted to depict that in an accurate sense, where it's like the partner almost hopes that it will just go away, right?
That is temporary.
And it's temporary, and that's the reality. And also, like, this can't be the case because we have all the ingredients for the perfect life, right?
Yeah.
I was very specific and intentional in choosing an affluent white woman who she should be fine. Like, this makes no sense.
And living on the beach in California.
Her mom goes like horseback riding on the beach. Like, you know, it's like Sunday dinners. Like, what do you have to complain about? And that's actually not how addiction works. And it didn't work like that in my case at all. It was going to get me no matter what, I believe, because of genetics, but also it doesn't discriminate, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, it's right. It found me, and it can find anyone. And so that's where I was hoping that the empathy could come through in sort of a universal sense of like, yes, this isn't a story about an impoverished woman struggling with addiction. And I just wanted to paint it from that light based on, you know, my privileged experience.
Right. I think it's so powerful because I think people do, looking at other people's lives, they're like, oh, they have it all. But then behind the curtain, there's always, you know, there's things going on that people try to hide publicly. And so,
right.
So I thought it was a powerful way to show, like you just said, addiction does not discriminate. It can hit anybody, for sure.
Well, and sharing the conversation the way you did is, you know, like you said with the journals, is normalizing that it's hard to be a mom,
right?
Normalizing that addiction happens, and, you know, it could happen to anybody. Right. And, you know, just, I think it was so powerful. I could not put your book down. I was just so, and your writing is brilliant. Oh, it's so engaging. It sometimes I read excessively, and and sometimes the writing kind of dummy down, for the reader. And you did not. You were plain talking. It was so good, and just felt like I was in the back seat of this experience, and it was just so engaging. And I immediately reached out to you and was like, "We have to have you on."
Yes, I'm so thrilled. Yeah, that honestly, it's my favorite. It's my favorite thing, and to hear, for me, the whole reason that I am in recovery and am vocal about recovery is because I am seeking connection, right? I was active in addiction. I was disconnected from my family, from the world. And so for people to like reach out now in the way that they do, it just feels like this is actually what keeps me sober, right? Like I'll be continuing to share, and if somebody say that it spoke to them, it makes me feel less alone in my own insanity, right? Because Leah's pretty insane. I'm pretty insane. Most women are pretty, we've got a lot going on, but we have.
And you have 3 teenage girls,
and that doesn't help with the insanity piece. If anything, if it exacerbates it. But one of the things I really wanted to bravely do inside this book was explore the idea that it's okay to feel like you're overwhelmed by motherhood, right?
Yes.
As a person in addiction, this can just be as a mother. But Leah is very vocal and says things aloud or in her internal monologue that I think a lot of women don't say out loud of like, not was this a mistake or was this, but just I had no idea.
Right.
No idea when I was going into this. And how would we, right? We have our childhood, we see friends go through it, but it's not the same until it's yours and your experience. And that's where I wanted to say, okay, but what's happening is the alcohol industry is taking those bruises and they're poking at them and they're saying, hey, here's a solution for that, because it is so hard. And it's really too hard for you because, you're the little woman, but this is how you can cope and make it better. And so we're being felt today. And then of course we're suffering, and Leah is suffering.
Right. But speaking to it, I don't feel like when I was growing up, when Shelly and I were growing up, that our mom would tell us how challenging it was.
No, never.
And looking at my husband's mom, she was like the quintessential, like, perfect mother. She ironed her tablecloth. She ironed her napkin. She like made her own like Easter, like ceramic Easter eggs. Like she painted, she sewed
Easter dresses for all the kids.
She would smock them. I mean, I'm like, and she had a full-time job as well.
Yeah.
She was a principal. I'm like, how?
Right. And
did you do all of this?
Just,
never complained.
And then never not have dinner on the table.
Always had dinner, and it was like freshly made, like very good Southern cooking.
Right? From the garden.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. And then milked the goats to get the cheese on the way. You know what I mean? Like just like,
I mean, and I'm sitting here like, I don't do any of that.
And I'm still overwhelmed too.
I was so overwhelmed. I remember, I mean, this is like not the Jody podcast, but I remember driving my kids one day. We were running late. We were trying to get to church because I had them in choir. They hated it, but I made them do it anyway. And now they're all like agnostic or, whatever, but whatever, it's fine.
Also, motherhood right there.
Exactly. And I'm driving and we're late again. And I remember telling my daughters, I don't care what they say. You can't have it all. You just can't have it all. You have to choose, because I was so overwhelmed. Yep. And it didn't matter if we even went to the church choir. I'm like, why did I add this pressure onto him?
But I think the difference is the vocalization that happens and then like, the repair that can happen, right? Like of just this like very profound honesty that like we kind of have to treat our kids as little humans in the way that they are. And like our childhood, it was interesting because I mean, at least for mine, it was like I was a child like growing up in the 90s and early 2000, and like it was just like a different world, right? Because there wasn't the predator online and there wasn't all the the fear of so it was very idyllic in that sense. But then also like my parents didn't know the internal turmoil that I was having because we don't talk about any mental health components, right? Like that just wasn't, and it wasn't their fault. It just wasn't talked about or wasn't known. And so me and my friend group, pretty much all we talk about is mental health components as it relates to our children and what we're seeing as a reflection of how we are and how they are and how can we support them. And thankfully there are more supports in place, but like normalizing these conversations with our kids, I think is like the greatest thing that we can do for them, I hope. Because at least for me, I am actually writing my third book right now on this topic of this this idea that like addiction, is it innate? Is it nature nurture? Like where does it begin? Because I see isms and traits in my own daughters that are a reflection of things I struggled with, like perfectionism, criticism of myself, just intrusive thoughts, all kinds of stuff that like, I know I'm not alone in that. And like, did I just like genetically gift you those magical things, or am I?
You're welcome.
Yeah, exactly. Besides all of my amazing qualities, I also gave you. But I very much think like, okay, well, now you have me as a mother and I can talk to you about it, but also how much do I know? And do I know too much? And am I guiding you in the wrong direction? This is actually my third book and I'm really excited about this.
That sounds incredible. I have to tell you.
Couri, and I like literally could not be more thrilled. So fingers crossed that it gets picked up.
Say the title again.
The Inheritance of Worry. Yeah.
Wow. And
it's going to be like literary fiction in the vein of Wreck, Sandwich, Catherine Newman, Lily King's Heart the Lover. Yeah. So, yeah.
Oh, wow. I was going to ask, what is on your nightstand? What do you read? Aside from your own journals and writing.
Oh my gosh. Well, no, the only reason I went back and read my journals is because of this third book, actually, is to like get back into the mindset of a 12-year-old.
So smart.
But what I read, so I fall asleep every night listening to audiobooks. That is how I turn my mind off. It is the only way. Now that I'm sober, I used to drink myself to sleep so that my brain would turn off. And so now I get to, listen to books. I'm actually listening to, I'm like so late to this party, but Jenna's pick, Heartwood. And like it has like my second book, Both Can Be True, has a missing woman element in it. And Heartwood is all about a woman that gets lost hiking in the woods. And I was like, oh, I need to get on this. And also two of the narrators in this are two of the narrators that are going to be in narrating for Both Can Be True.
Oh, wow.
Helen Laser and Rebecca Lohman, who are just like beyond phenomenal. So I was like listening to them, like to fall asleep listening to them speak and then be like, oh my gosh, I'm going to listen to my own book, listen by them.
That's incredible.
A month. I'm dying. I'm so excited. And then I just downloaded the new one. People are talking about, I like to like switch it up. Either if it's like, I always go dark and deep and heavy. I love the internal, psychological, like turmoil that happens within women's minds. But I'm listening to This Story Might Save Your Life. It's brand new, and it's like a podcast. Again, somebody goes missing. This one's a little lighter, and it was like highly recommended on Audible. I believe it just came out on Tuesday. But I also I listened to Half His Age, which is Jeanette McCurdy's. I don't know if you guys
Oh, yes.
if you guys read I'm Glad My Mother Died, her memoir.
Yes.
Yes.
Oh man. So everybody has such a strong reaction to her book. This is her first fiction book, and it's about a really young girl who falls in love with a 45-year-old married professor.
Ugh.
And it's about grooming, right? Which is so uncomfortable. The book will make you want to just rip your skin off,
Take a shower.
and shower just incessantly. But to me, the most uncomfortable position I can get inside my mind is really healing for me in so many ways. And so I'll go there. And I really like it.
Well, she's
what it says about me, but
No.
I think it's brave. I think it's super brave because
Agreed.
it's so uncomfortable. And I like writing like that, where it's the protagonist, like Leah, being an unreliable narrator, being lovable but unlikable. That nails the protagonist for Half His Age. Is she's just you hate her. You're also is it her fault that she's doing this, which is so confusing about grooming, right? And
Right.
fault. So smart, just psychologically so brilliant.
Oh my gosh, I can't wait. I'm just gonna
That's
download all of them.
that's right up Jody's alley. That
I love things like
Well, it's so interesting too, because you hear about these books, and then what does it say about you when you're going to bat for the deeply disturbing? My Dark Vanessa is probably one of my favorite books of all time. And it's also about, it's a version of, a teacher with a student. And there's just something so realistic about, and this is part of me looking back on my journals and all of this, of being a child, the way that I was raised, the way that men were allowed to engage with younger women in my generation, is disgusting. I used to have PE teachers that would, in front of all the class every day, feel my legs to feel my muscles growing, my bare legs in junior high.
gross.
And it was just well, this is just what we do. I just find it profoundly healing to read about experiences of in that, to look at it, explore it, and be normalize these thoughts that you're having. And those are books that I write now, is that I only want to write about that because I only want other people to feel less alone.
They're not alone. Yeah,
Right.
they're not alone. And going back to your, sharing your journals with your kid, your girls, and normalizing these thoughts that we have, these intrusive thoughts. We all have intrusive thoughts. What are you going to do with it? Having those conversations is so powerful for them.
Yeah. And specifically, I think so many young women, I didn't learn what the term intrusive thought meant until my seventh therapist later on. And I actually learned that as a child I had OCD, and I had no idea what OCD was. I thought it was the cleanliness one, right? I thought it was the obsessive hand washing.
Right.
My OCD was intrusive thoughts. And it came out of hearing about, I don't know if you guys are familiar with this, is huge here, but Polly Klaas's kidnapping. She was in California. She was about an hour from where I grew up. And she was 2 or 3 years older than me. But the idea that somebody could come in, a man came into her window, she was having a sleepover, tied up her friends with, I remember, Nintendo cords, which is so traumatic on so many levels, and then kidnapped her, did the worst to her, and, you know, got caught ultimately. But that was the first time as like a young child that I realized that the world is not a safe place for young men, because we lived in that bubble. And also we didn't have the news in the same way that we do now, and didn't have that in our face. But Polly Klaas's case was the first time that we publicized, you know, kids being taken, and that was a possibility. And before that, it like shattered my world. And so every night I had these intrusive thoughts of like, well, this, you know, if the phone doesn't ring in 5 seconds, if the dog doesn't bark in 2 seconds, and I would just be on a loop, then somebody's going to climb through my window.
Fun and seeing a Nintendo game.
Right.
Oh, yeah. Like,
and all of these things of like, that could be me. That could be me. That could be me. And then having nowhere to put it. Right. So like I put it in my journals. A part of my, you know, fear was like, if I say it aloud, if I share it with anybody else, something bad will happen. So I'll put it in here and I'll keep it a secret.
So interesting.
And then, yeah, that's also part of my third book too, is that concept.
Wow.
Well, and I have to tell you, I think to some degree, one thing that I've heard, one of the positives that has come out of the more of the movement towards the true crime thing is that a lot of people said that it gives them like ways to react, you know, to keep themselves safe. They have more of like a constant vigilance, you know, like you're kind of more aware of your surroundings than, and you're just, they say that people are drawn to it because it gives them like a safe place to learn about these situations, to prepare themselves. I do think I had to take a break from some of it because I remember my husband would drive me like to a new place and I was like, are you taking me to like a surprise party where then you're gonna like harm me in some way? And he's like the most gentle guy. Of course. But these intrusive thoughts, I have weird intrusive thoughts. Like I'll see like a tractor or something on the side of the road. I'm like, I should get in there and drive that. Like I have to
yeah. I mean, yes, okay.
I'm like, why do I want to like I'm like, I need, or I'll be driving and there's like a trash bag on the side of the road. I'm like, I hope there aren't any puppies in that thing over there. You know, I should go check. You know,
a woman's mind truly is remarkable. That's the thing that I'm learning is like, I remember having a conversation with my husband one time and it was like, do you think in linear thoughts, right? Like I asked him almost like joking, being like, who thinks in linear thoughts? And he was like, yeah, of course I do. Like I think in like bullet points and full sentences. And I was like, huh? Like I'm like squirrel, dog, write this in my essay. Okay, put this in my next book. What?
Like, so jealous.
So linear. There's no, I mean, it's linear for me, right? Like it takes me on that like journey. But that's what I love about reading and writing is this like, oh yeah, I so see how you got there. Like I absolutely see how you got there. And actually this idea of like true crime and the reason women are drawn to it. I'm actually writing an article right now. Hopefully that'll get placed in like Slate or People magazine or something about this idea of we've been gaslit our whole lives to say we're safe, right? You're overreacting. Statistically, that's not true. We're not, because
1 in 3.
When we listen to true crime, the people that are hurting women the most are their partners. There's a reason they say it's always the husbands, right? And it's like, it validates and it like scratches the itch that we're like seeking evidence. And it's like, well, here's the evidence and this is true. And it like normalizes this conversation for us as opposed to the flip side, which is like, you're being a hysterical woman.
Nice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Are we though?
Right. Well, and that's the thing is we're not. And also, yeah, like learning the hypervigilance. Like I can't even
Yes.
tell you. I mean, like I listen to Crime Junkie every week, and it's like, what's the number one rule? Like, you know what I mean? Like it's just like, don't walk to your car on your phone. You know, just like
Right.
these
Right.
are things I wish we didn't have to learn, but at the same time, like
I mean,
this
this is
is
where we're at.
this is where we're at, right?
You gotta have constant vigilance.
Exactly. Exactly.
Well, I'm glad you're writing books that are diving into this in articles, because I think, and having 3 daughters, you just want them to be so safe and cared for and taken care of in their lives, so that they can pass that feeling of being safe in this world. That's what I really want for them. So
Yes.
And like mentally safe, right? Like it's
yes,
I never felt safe inside my own mind, which is why I turned to addiction. And so it was a way of shutting that off. And
Right.
so if we find, you know, communities of women, if we find safe places to talk to one another, that's why I love book clubs. That's why I love podcasts. That's why I love my recovery meetings, is because it's a safe place for women to like say those scary things out loud. And the younger we start doing that with our own kids, I feel like the better they are mentally prepared for these thoughts, and like telling them there's nothing wrong with these thoughts. There's nothing wrong with having them.
Yes.
In fact, they can turn into books. They can turn into ideas. They can turn into something creative and wonderful.
Yes. Oh, wow. Wow.
But
So amazing.
yeah, and it's also you're giving them a safe place to come to you when their thoughts are becoming, you know, on a record player, you know,
Right.
over and over again. You're like, come to me if you can't seem to turn it off.
Right.
Let's find a healthy way to get your brain rerouted to something that, because you don't want them to move into an addiction cycle.
Right.
They
And
can't
that's
turn that off.
And that's the thing. And that's the whole thing, is like, even if I can see all the signs of worrisome behavior or whatever it is, ultimately what the end of the game is, and we know in motherhood, is like we're powerless over their journey of what their lives are going to be, right? And even my narrative of it, like if I were to go back and say, would I change being an alcoholic and a drug addict? And I would say no. I would still actually choose that every time for myself, because it got me here.
Right.
Like I'm very lucky that I made it out alive, you know,
Right.
but I still wouldn't change it, because it's part of the things that I think
It's the journey.
it's the journey. And now I'm able to be like a translator for it, right? Like not many people get to say, I'll tell you, when I was writing Between the Devil and the Deep Blue Sea, I actually relapsed in drugs when I was writing it, because it was during the pandemic. And I was sober, and I knew that I couldn't drink alcohol, but I live in California, and it was like, oh, I'll just do THC and like gummies, and that's what, you know, California sober, that's what it means.
Right.
And I convinced myself that that was okay, because it was the end of the world, right? Like, so it's like, well, that's fine. So I actually wrote a lot of the scenes where Leah is like deeply suffering and struggling and feeling like she cannot connect with her children, when I was high out of my mind. And those are actually the only pieces of the book that ended up staying, of like all the deep, deep edits that we did later. Because that's what it felt like. It was like, oh, no, I'm in a glass cage and I'm parenting inside, and I can only watch my kids from the outside, and I can't participate in their lives, even though I want to.
Wow.
Because my kids had never known me to drink, right? Like I got sober before I became a mom, but then I found addiction again. Addiction is addiction in whatever form. And it just in that I identified as an addict as well. And so I have 13 years coming up with sobriety, but I have 6 years clean from drugs as well. So yeah.
Wow. And it's true. I mean, I think during the pandemic, there was definitely a spike, you know, in usage. I had stopped drinking Diet Coke for like 3 years, and then the pandemic hit, and I'm like, ow, who cares? Drink that life.
Well, not even aging. It was like, well, it's 5 o'clock anywhere. Also, it doesn't, nothing matters. So you're like, okay, well, yeah, drink Diet Coke. Everybody's watching screens all the time. Like Bluey was just like on in our house. I mean, I had 3 kids under 5.
Oh my gosh.
And I was just like, well, you're going to be raised by dogs on a screen because from Australia, because they do a much better job than I do. Like I'm really, truly losing my mind. Which was fair, to be fair. It was really hard. But luckily, that's how the book came to be.
Yeah.
Wow. So where did you grow up, Jessica?
I grew up in the Bay Area, about 20 minutes south of San Francisco in Belmont. Yeah.
Recently, someone was telling us they grew up in the Bay Area. We have a Bay Area in Texas, but
and you're like, yeah, oh, really? What?
Yeah,
It's a Peninsula Bay Area. I'm like, we don't get to claim the Bay Area, I guess. But that is a very California thing for us to do, to be like, well, it's ours, obviously.
Well, I should have known.
I think the whole world thinks the Bay Area is California.
Okay, well, I mean, yeah.
Not Galveston Bay.
But
that's so pretty.
For Texas. Take it, whatever you need. That's funny. I'm from the Bay Area, and loved growing up down there. But I'm in Davis now, where I went to school and met my husband, and his whole family is from here. And so I picked him out specifically because I fell in love with this town. It's the perfect hybrid of community that's, education based with the university, and then it's like so family centered. Like we're on a green belt, my kids ride their bike to school. It's like old Pleasantville, First Hollow,
and we just played UC Davis in baseball.
Oh really?
Yeah, they just
now we're like D1 too. We're like coming around. I had to laugh because I got recruited for crew for Davis. I'm 6'1", and so I was an athlete.
Nice.
And I did it for like 6 weeks because it really interfered with my drinking, like my college.
Yeah, you don't want to be going like this.
Crew is 4 a.m. and you go you go, and I was like, that I'm still not sober at that point. But it was actually really fun experience, like while it lasted, of course. But it just didn't like connect with me. And then really funny, I was asked to be a conversation partner for a romance writer in Sacramento, and her book is called Racing Hearts, and her name is Ann Adams. She just wrote her debut, and it's on collegiate crew. It's about rowing. I'm the perfect person to interview because of my 6-week experience. And she's like, well, I actually trained in the Olympic or whatever. And I was like, okay, so maybe not. She's like, you might know a little bit more. Also not the same. But it was so fun though, because I was like, oh yeah, there's this part in her book where she talks about this this clicking that happens when you're like all in sync and like the solo crew. But mine was like that moment of like magic where you like all are doing it at the same time.
Yes.
And the synchronicity of that. And I was like, oh, I know what you're talking about.
I have a son with autism, and he rows.
Wonderful. I would imagine it'd be very like the proprioceptive, like soothing, vestibular, whatever they call it, stimulation. I was a special education teacher before I became a mom, and I did all of my areas in autism, and my second book actually is about a girl that's on the autism spectrum.
Oh, lovely. Jody just retired from 30 years of special ed teaching.
What grades did you teach in special ed?
I did, well, I can honestly say pre-K through 5th, but mainly it's supposed to be 1st through 5th, but occasionally I'd have a pre-K. I worked in the behavior unit. So I had kiddos that were a little angry, at times.
You guys, I did emotional disturbance.
Yes.
I don't know if they call it, I don't think
we call it social behavior skills, because but it's emotional disabilities.
Sure. Yeah, that's
regulating.
That's really tricky. I also worked in the behavior, we called it the behavior room, and it was like, yeah, we did a lot of throwing of furniture, and
Yeah.
I don't know what the rules were in Texas for what you're allowed to do, but in California, like, you can't put hands on your kids even if they're not being safe. And it's just, it was a lot. And that actually contributed a lot to my drinking.
I hear you.
I did a lot of like, justification in my mind of like, well, I'm doing this really wonderful thing, like serving this population, and I feel very rewarded by it, but also I'm owed this drink because it's so hard, and like mentally I was shutting down a little bit at a time. So how many people in the helping profession you see in the rooms of Alcoholics Anonymous? It's nurses, it's teachers, it's paramedics.
Yes.
Do you feel like your books of choice related to your work? Because it definitely did for Jody.
Oh, absolutely. Like, do I like the books that I read or the books that I write, or both?
It's probably both.
Oh, absolutely. And it depends, right? Like, sometimes there's so much in it that you're like, I'm not going to read about this on top of it, right? If you're in it. But I'm super drawn to neurodiversity in children.
Me too. Yeah.
I recently, as in like 2 weeks ago, learned that I have ADHD. I got a formal diagnosis for it. And I like have never felt such relief of just like, yep, that makes a lot of sense.
Makes sense.
Yeah. Well, when y'all are talking about linear thinking, I was like, yeah, I mean, that's, how do y'all?
Really, and I'm like, no.
I was like, oh, that's probably ADHD.
I literally was like cracking myself up the other day because when I was a special education teacher, I taught junior high special ed, and I taught study skills.
Wow.
Which is like organizational strategy.
Yeah, executive function.
Yeah.
I'm going to tell you that I was an active alcoholic. Nobody should be following my organizational strategies, like, that's for sure. And like, it's just like, it's almost comical. Like, no wonder I was struggling so much. Like, I had such little awareness, right, of like my skill set and like what I had to offer. I just knew that I loved children. I had this profound patience. I was so moved by, like, I think children, like, I literally, my favorite humans in the world are and just like, they have so much to teach us. And yet I was like, now I look back on it as like my 41-year-old self, like, no wonder like I wasn't doing so well. Like, parents are like, well, you're teaching, Mike, you're organized, have you seen your desk?
Yeah, I know. I have to say, I'm not on a sober journey, but when I was teaching, I drank way more than in my retirement time. I'm not drinking as much. I think it was a way that I thought it would quiet my brain, but it
no. In fact, it worsens your anxiety.
Yes.
It like worsens your sleep. It literally does.
It does the opposite. Yeah. And then I find when you have ADHD, it heightens it significantly. You can't focus.
No, it does the opposite. Although it's the temporary reprieve, right? And that's what's so alluring of it, right? Of all the things of just being able to like check out momentarily. I mean, that's what I talk about in my book the most, is just like that need for like a pause, like an exhale, something that's just a sense of relief, because motherhood is everything all at once, all the time. And it's like, you need to step back sometimes, and you just can't when the needs are that intrusive and great. And especially now that I'm learning, like, I'm neurodiverse, that like sensory overload is a very real thing. And when kids are auditory processing, they're doing every single type of noise thing that you could possibly do. No wonder I was getting overwhelmed. Like, you didn't give myself a break. Like, if anything, that's what I'm like, oh, wow, I think I did pretty well for.
You did great.
Yeah, thanks. I'm like, and like, really, just give yourself a little bit of a break here. In general, like women, moms in general, like, we're carrying the weight of the world.
And anybody that teaches, as a mom of a person with autism, we're very thankful. Even if it was unorganized, we don't care. We're grateful.
Yeah. How old is your child?
He's 24.
Oh, wonderful.
Yeah. He's your age.
I'm not 24, but thanks. And what is he like? What does he love? What?
He's so.
He loves
such
calendars.
a great person.
Yeah. He loves calendars. And actually, during COVID, it was beautiful. He does not like the TV. He does not like sound on at all. So we had no TV, but we hiked about 10 miles a day during COVID. So it was a beautiful time for us. So we're like, wonderful.
In fact, and actually a lot of people said, especially if you had a child in that age group, that it brought you back. I don't know if you guys listened to Tom Lake, which you should. It's Ann Patchett, but Meryl Streep reads it. Yeah, it's all about.
Oh, I did read that.
Sisters coming home in the COVID time, and they're at a farm with their mom, and she's relaying this this wild acting time of her life. But it's that where it's you actually did have this untouchable connection that you would never ever be able to have back again. And as a mom of young children, I'm super curious because it wasn't that. It was hectic.
Hectic. Of course. And
it's we've had so much construction stuff happening around us on the Greenbelt, and so there's been nonstop gardening, people, and my older dog is 15 and completely deaf and blind. So if the younger dog barks, she's like, we're supposed to be barking? Okay, that's what I'm doing. And then she just can't stop. And I just
so cute.
It's again, the lessons of insanity. Why do you do this to myself? We have 5 bunnies, we have 2 dogs, we have 3 pigs. There's something really soothing to me about animals too. They're very predictable, and I really love that.
Yes.
I know you did an interview with Danielle Cobb.
Yes, yesterday. Oh my gosh,
she's so amazing.
I love her.
I was blessed. She was asking me my sign and stuff because she was like, "Oh my gosh, I feel like we're connected on so many things," and I was like, "Oh, I don't believe any of that. I'm sorry, but yes, we're connected through the recovery piece for sure."
For sure.
She's so lovely.
She is so lovely.
About 2 months ago, she posted that we seek chaos in our lives because that is that's where we feel calm. Because we grew up
with some chaos. Yeah.
And
absolutely.
It just struck a chord with me so aggressively. I was like, what?
Right. Well, and I think a lot of women too. I know with my friend group, I have one friend, my very best friend in the whole world, who actually her youngest daughter is named Dottie, and I call Dottie for it. Then we call her Little Dot. And so it's funny because she actually adopted her daughter with Down syndrome from China. And then Dottie is speech delayed. And then she has 2 boys that are somewhere on, the neurodivergent. And she has a brother who's developmentally delayed. And so we connected originally because we're both over 6 feet. And then we had the special education background, and we met at a mom's group, and we both just fell in love with each other, and oh my God, you're the best. She's also, a former athlete. And so we just talked about special education and how we're drawn to these, magical children. And I had to call her on her stuff, as only best friends can do, where she was they had this was her 4th, her youngest daughter. And, and then recently somebody asked, would you have any more? And she's like, well, no more of our own, but we would adopt another one with Down syndrome. And I was like, hey, love,
slow your roll. Like, you are amazing. Like, don't get me wrong. And like their daughter, June, who has Down syndrome, is just like, they've given her the most magical childhood. And she was literally living in an orphanage where she lived in a crib. She was developmentally delayed. It's just like, they saved her life. But I was like, hey, hun, like, I think your chaos meter, like, and the normalcy of that, like, let's just like bring it back down. She's like, all right, like, okay, like, you're the busiest, fullest mom ever. Like, she's my goals. But yeah, we seek out that level of just like matching. And I'm like, well, I do it with bunnies. Like, I don't do it with like wonderful children and adopting them. I do it with animals.
Oh my goodness. That's every time somebody our age gets a puppy, I'm like, what the hell are y'all doing?
Oh, it's pure. Like something is not right in myself when I start going on Pet Finder, and my husband will have to be like, hey, hun, I'm just gonna tell you, like, you're doing it again. And
Yeah, you're doing it again.
To me, that's intrusive thinking. You need
absolutely. Well, it's just like you seek something about it is like self-soothing or whatever. And it even goes back to like the true crime thing. It's like we seek out things that like feel comforting to us.
That adrenaline, that
women need to learn how to like be able to say no.
Absolutely.
Right? Oh my god! Like this. I'm at my max. I don't need to be, what's the quote? It's like, exhaustion is not a badge of honor.
No.
And I'm like, I try and teach that to my girls. Like, the pandemic taught us like, oh, we actually don't need to be at 15 places all at once. You can go on a 10-mile hike. Like, what?
Yes. Slow down.
You don't have to sign in for class because they're really not doing anything.
Right. You're like, yes. Yeah. No kidding. Yeah. Nobody wants to be there.
It's calendar time for the 6th time in one day. No, we don't have to do that.
Well, I'm sorry. You cannot do distance learning for neurodivergent. Like,
no.
What are you talking about?
It was awful.
I can't even imagine.
It was awful. It was probably one of the hardest times of my life as an educator.
Of course. Also,
it was terrible.
So like powerless over like you can't support them at home in that way.
And I became very privy to things that I had to report.
Right. And yeah, I mean, in emotional disturbance,
I was seeing it.
Right. The apples in the trees, as they say, like, and there's not that it can't it necessarily all aligns, but every single case that I ever worked with, the parents were struggling in some sort of form, and mandated reporters. It's just a lot. It's a lot to carry, especially if you're an empath and you care deeply.
Oh gosh, it was.
Which one are you not as a teacher? I don't know anything.
That would be weird if you were. And I was lucky because my principal allowed my unit to come back early. They were the first ones back because
for safety.
They were begging to come back.
Of course.
We put little tents. Everybody had their own tent. It looked like Skid Row in LA. They could go in there, take their mask off, relax. So they come back out, and then, but they loved it because they were like, I feel safe here.
I'm safe.
Yeah.
Right. Well, and it's also, and like, I mean, I hate to say it, but it's like also safer for the parents to be getting a break,
some respite
for their mental health. And to be one of my best friends who I borrowed a lot of her life for my second book, Both Can Be True. She has like a son with level 3 autism.
Wow.
And she's also like the greatest mother that,
Shelly. Yes.
And just truly like incredible in every sense of the word. But at the same time, like she's a human being, and like you have limits. And the things that she'll, I'll be around for. And I'm just like, on the days that he misses school because, he's having sensory issues or whatever it is. And it's like, but that's her respite.
Right.
and then the rest of the day goes from there, right? And it all falls on her, and it's just like, that's a lot for everybody.
Gosh, yes,
Yeah.
yes.
Hey, I want to ask, what's your sister's name?
My sister's name is Kara.
And you're going to go on tour together?
Well, yeah, that'll be the start. No, we joke that I don't know if you guys watch Nobody Wants This.
Yes.
Yeah, on Netflix. We were like so mad because she did a podcast during the pandemic, and her and I have always joked like, let's just do our sister podcast together.
Okay.
Do it.
It's like me. And she's a writer as well. She's a former model, and
Nice.
just like hilarious. You know, we have our like literally. So I'm the younger sister, so like I invited her to like do this event with me for my book launch. And like on her social media, she's like, "Oh, my childhood roommate and I are gonna do a event," and I was just like, "You would say that? Like, I'm doing you a favor of like putting it's just like this is who we are together." So I'm like, anything we can do together is super fun. And also we had a complicated relationship. Like, I thought motherhood was going to be the thing that truly bonded us together, and then she has a son who's neurodiverse and has a lot of different challenges. And she only has one son, and she's no longer with the dad. And so her experience in motherhood is completely different than mine. And so we don't relate to each other at all in that capacity.
Mm-hmm.
And so it wasn't until we realized like, oh, we do best with each other if we can kick it old school of like, we go on a trip, there's no kids, it's us as sisters, our foundation.
Yes.
And we actually were so lucky because our stepsister got married in Australia because she's Australian 2 summers ago. And so we got like a week in Australia together.
Nice.
Our like love for each other like reignited. And that's when I was writing this second book.
Oh.
And I was like, I think that there's something to be said about with sisters, you always come back to each other. Like you always
Absolutely.
And there's a communication between you that only you speak. And everyone that has a sister knows that. And you hate each other in the fiercest way you can at certain things. But then you're so protective of one another.
Absolutely.
I'm allowed to say whatever I want about her. Nobody else is allowed to call her out.
Yeah.
Right. Nobody can talk shit about it.
Nobody. Right. Even though I can. And I
Exactly.
will.
Exactly.
And I,
Yeah, it's so funny. When other people watching sister relationships, they're always like, "Wow, yeah, it's so like they're just enamored, or they wish they had that, or they say we're codependent."
I mean, and technically, I actually don't believe that. Like, I don't think that's possible because that is the nature of siblings.
Absolutely.
Also, I have 2 girls that are 17 months apart.
Yes.
They're like so meshed with each other. Is that what you guys are?
Yeah, we're
like
Irish.
Exactly. And my sister and I are like 2.5 years, which is funny because it's like a little bit of a bigger gap, although that's like not a big gap. Like when you're like really about them as little people or us as little people. And I'm like, there is just something so special about sisterhood.
Absolutely.
And it's so, if it's in the title and it's like, 2 estranged sisters or sisters coming back together, and I'm just like, all right, I guess I'm reading another book. Like,
agreed. Anything that says sisters, I'm reading it.
Complicated family dynamics to me, and like there's a reason why my first book, it was like chosen sisters, right? It was the sister-in-law. This was actually based on my relationship with my actual sister-in-law, and like how we sort of found our way to each other. She has a history of her mom is in recovery as well.
Oh, so
and she didn't share that with me until we were, well into 10 years dating our husbands. And you know why she didn't share it with me? Because I was actively in addiction. And she's like, I don't trust you at all. You remind me of my mom. And then we got super close once I got sober. And I remember she I had just had my oldest, and she was pregnant with her first, and she was holding my oldest, who was 6 weeks at the time. And she's like not an emotional, sentimental person at all. And she just starts crying, and she's like, "You have no idea the gift that you've given this girl by being sober." She's like, "I will tell you," because her mom didn't find recovery actually until 2 years after that. So I actually took her first meeting.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Oh,
That's amazing.
wow.
What a gift. What a gift.
And that was me being super vocal within the family, and not being shy about it, of just like, we're talking about it, what's going to happen. And since then, there's been this cascade of family members seeking help. And I always say that I started it, but I want to say I was the loudest, most obnoxious person about it. And that only helped like start the conversation. Everybody else was like so thrilled to hear that.
That's
I can't
amazing.
believe how much of your book overlaps
So
your life.
Yes.
It's a little actually, you know what's funny is my husband is like, I don't think he hasn't read my second one yet. Because he's still a little shell shocked from the first one. I think we were in Half Moon Bay, which is where the book takes place, and we took the girls on a tour. We called it Between the Devil Tour, where we went through the tree tunnels, which are a real place, and we just went all the way through. And actually, I was listening to the Audible narrators read the book as we were doing this, which was just crazy, as they were like auditioning for it. And then he was reading the book for the first time, and read it on that weekend. And it was just like, well, every part of this was like the most surreal, you know, with my kids on the same beach and
right.
And you know, there are pieces of it obviously that are so true of us. He was obviously so much more supportive than the husband in that, but I did have a really complicated relationship with my mother-in-law, and that was really hard for him, and it was profoundly my fault because I hated her when I was in active addiction because she represented the mother that I could never be. And then when I got sober, her and I had this beautiful relationship because I let go of the chip on my shoulder, and I saw that she wasn't judging me at all. She was like,
and she wasn't perfect.
She wasn't perfect. And she was very honest about that. She had 4 kids under 5. And she never claimed to be perfect. I just thought she was doing it so much better. And so he is, you know, an ultimate mama's boy, like love, love, love. And tragically, she died of COVID.
Oh gosh, that's terrible.
And so this happened 3 years ago. So she never got to read my book. She knew about it though, and
she knows it. I'm sure she's very proud of you.
And ultimately, my love letter to her is the relationship between Amy and Christine, and that conversation that they had in the end with their shared experience.
Right.
And so that is how our relationship sort of ended. So I'm just so grateful. And without recovery, like I never would have had that.
Right.
I got out of my own way to recognize like what a wonderful woman she is.
No, that's incredible.
Wow. Oh, wow.
Yeah. So you can imagine for my poor husband who's married to me, which is a lot. I mean, I'm great and all, but like I'm a lot. And so he is like, great, hon. I'm so glad. Like, he's like an introvert. He's an engineer. And he's like, cool. Could you please like stop talking about my mom on podcasts? And I'm like, I'm sorry, honey. Like, I'm so sorry.
He's like, your book is autobiographical.
My family is really private, and you just keep like bringing it. And I'm like, the part of recovery is like we talk about it on and on. I don't. And I was like, that's fair.
This is the same conversation me and Jody have. She's like, I don't want anybody to know who I am. I'm like, we're doing a podcast.
Yeah, right. That was the thing that I had to, once I like I had to reconcile. I remember the first interview I did where I had to say like, oh, by the way, I relapsed with drugs when I wrote Between the Devil. And I was like, oh shit, I just told on myself like hardcore, because in recovery, I like in AA, I would have to say like, oh, I relapsed. I had started over. I lost all of my sobriety. Like that's technically what they believe. I don't believe that, but that's what, that's what the program says. Mm-hmm. And then I was like, well, how honest do I really want to be? Because there we go. And then I'm like, well, how honest do I really want to be? Like, what's the point of all this? The point of all this is that I want other people to be honest. So like, oh, well, like, here we go. Like this, if it's like the Brene Brown concept of like vulnerability breeds vulnerability. Like, here it is. Someone else can take it or leave it, but I guarantee you it's going to inspire someone else to like look more honestly at themselves. I have to be careful about like what's like, here's my story, I'm going to keep my story, like stop sharing other people's stories. Like, that's maybe not something I'm like, tell me anything because it'll end up in a book.
That's I love it.
I mean, you're like, so you're like, you realize I just like wrote a book about all of the things that we've shared with you. I was like, I know. Sorry. I mean, I thanked you in the acknowledgments. Is that? And they're like, no. They're totally fine. They know.
We have friends that are like, hey, I'm going to tell you something, but you can't mention it on the podcast.
Yeah, exactly. They're like, could you not? Yeah, I'm like, my best friend's going to be like, why are you telling everybody that I'm adopting more kids? Like, what?
Yeah.
Sorry.
Well, I understand.
It's all in the name of relatability of the fact that we are one of, like, our friend group feels like this anomaly of just wonderful women who are changing the world and everything. But really, we're like, these are the women like this. We all represent something, and there are women like that everywhere. And I like to like say like, well, look, like this person is this person. It reminds you of this person.
Exactly.
For a reason.
Jody Charlotte from Sex and the City.
Oh, really? You're in Charlotte?
She's a total Charlotte.
No.
Oh, no way. I wouldn't talk that. Even
That's hilarious. That's hilarious.
Well, definitely not in the new series. We were just gonna ignore that completely.
Yeah.
Shelly City was like, I used to like watch it going to sleep at night. That was like my happy place.
Yeah.
Now it's like very problematic. Like I look back and I'm like, it's like watching Friends again, where you're like, oh
wow,
that didn't hold up. Like you actually can't talk like that anymore. And like, cool. Okay. So of the times.
Of the times.
Of the times.
Oh my gosh. Well, Jessica, this has been an incredible treat. We are huge fangirls for you. Keep putting out the great books. I cannot wait for your all of your books to come out. I'm excited about Both Can Be True and Inheritance of Worry. This is going to be a great adventure for us. And please come on every time a book comes out. We'd love to,
I will.
Yeah. Do it. We have a couple of others that jump on every time they have.
We love it. We love it.
Yes, well, I definitely want to come on again when Both Can Be True comes out. I can get you guys your hands on ARCs if you want. And I'm like, I'm so excited about it. So I would love to.
Yeah, I would love it. We would love it. Yeah, absolutely.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome. My pleasure.
This was so great. I love your stories. This is amazing.
I know. We have to meet face to face.
Yes.
Yes, I know. Are you guys both in Texas?
We're both in Austin.
If you're if you do a book tour here,
I was gonna say, if I was gonna go to Texas, which I would only go to Austin. So.
Okay.
We have a
California girl.
We have
I would love it.
Yeah, book people.
Book people are the best people.
Yes. All right. Thank you so much. And with that, we'll say Texas.
Yeah.